Greetings and welcome to another episode of Babylon with Vampa, the show where we have a cavalcade of Detroit creative people to tell us all about their current and upcoming projects. I'm your host, Vampa Delombra, and with me as always, my co-host, Ded McMahon. How's your week been, Ded?
My week has been terrible, Vampa.
Oh no, why? What happened now?
I got canceled.
You, Ded? What happened?
Well, the woke mob got at me, found out some things I'd said in the past, and it's all over for me. But you can hear all about it in my upcoming Netflix stand-up special.
Netflix? Who can even afford Netflix anymore? Anyway, I'd like to welcome my next guest, Filmmaker Addison Binek. Hello, Addison.
Hi, how's it going?
It's going great. Thank you for hanging out with me, and we're in the 7th level of hell.
Okay.
The Hoarders and Spindrifts level.
Yeah, I kind of lost track of all the different levels making my way down. So.
Yeah, that happens to a lot of people. I hope it wasn't too rigorous getting down.
No,
there.
I think 3 and 4 could use some work actually. But
Yeah.
the difference between 3 and 4, wasn't much of a difference, but.
Yeah, I've heard that, and I've also heard that getting back up isn't as hard as getting back down. So on your way out.
Oh, man, that's good to know.
Yeah. So thank you for joining us today.
Yeah.
I'm excited to hear all about your filmmaking career and the saga that is Psycho Ape.
Cool.
So you've written and directed with your partner,
Yep, Greg
DeLiso, Psycho Ape 1 and the forthcoming Psycho Ape 2.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like to tell us a little bit about Psycho Ape and Psycho Ape 2?
Okay. Well, Psycho Ape, the first one we shot in 2019 and released it in 2020. We had raised about $7,000 on Kickstarter, and
Nice.
initially we only asked for $1,000 because this was just a random project that I thought up. I had a dream like a year before of my buddy wearing his crappy gorilla costume, chasing somebody around with a giant, itchy and scratchy sized butcher knife, So when I woke up, I was like, all right, Psycho, because of the giant knife, and then Ape. It was very silly, very easy to just put those two together.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought, okay, we can make that a movie. And not too long after that, I reached out to my friend who had this costume, and over some beers, we wrote the opening scene, because the beginning of Psycho Ape has the trope of 80s actors and actresses, well into their 20s or even 30s playing teenagers.
Yeah.
And so we want to do that right out the gate, like Slumber Party Massacre or something.
Mm-hmm.
And one of their boyfriends, breaks into the slumber party wearing a gorilla costume to scare them. And I rip the mask off, figure out who it is, yell at him, and he leaves. And so then we knew that we wanted to have an ape show up, an actual ape, kill the boyfriend, take the costume so that we had an ape costume on an ape costume, go into the teenage slumber party, and then have the girls all, oh no, it's just, Steve again or whatever, and rip the ape mask off to reveal ape on an ape. And that's kind of where we were like, okay, we have a movie, this is a great gag, so let's build a movie around this. So then I pitched the rest of the idea to my partner Greg, and we turned it into a movie. And we shot it in 2019 with the $7,000 we made on Kickstarter, released it in 2020. Took a little bit longer than we anticipated just because of the pandemic.
Yes.
But from there, we've gotten it onto Amazon Prime. I go to all kinds of horror conventions like Cinema Wasteland, Horror Hound, Days of the Dead. And in about 4 years, I've probably sold 1,000 copies. And it's got this weird little cult fan base that's, I can't speak for it. I just know it exists because then when we were ready to do part 2, I asked for $10,000 thinking that, okay, if we get that, that's enough. We can go shoot in California, because that's where Greg lives now. But because he is my partner, but he shoots the movies and he edits the movies. We write and direct them together.
Okay.
But so I thought, okay, well, I'm going to go out to California to make it a little bit easier, and we have cast and crew out there willing to work on the movie. So let's just go out there. Let's migrate to California instead of Michigan. And we raised $14,000. So that just kind of goes to show that, like, the first movie has, you know, not to have a pun, but appeal. But they spoke with their wallets, and we got to make a part 2. You know, pre-orders for Blu-rays and DVDs, executive producer credits, toys, T-shirts, trading cards, all kinds of stuff. But yeah, we got to make part 2. We shot that last year, and now it's coming out. It's officially, going to be on Blu-ray, and I just saw a screening of it this past weekend at Gross Fest in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and it seemed to go over pretty well. That was the first time I saw the movie with a crowd, and there's another screening coming up in Howell, Michigan at the Historic Howell Theater on Thursday, August 22nd, and that'll be my first time seeing it in a movie theater with people. So yeah, it's very fresh, very new, and yeah, people, I don't know, people really like these Psycho Ape movies.
Yeah. So a couple things that I noticed when I didn't get to watch 2 yet, but I watched 1.
Okay.
And as I was watching 1, I thought this has such a Mad Magazine vibe. And then there's a character reading a Cracked magazine.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, it's Cracked magazine vibe.
Cracked is more appropriate, I think, because it's a little, it's even like less classy, you know what I mean? Mad Magazine has a certain elegance to it. Cracked is like, if Mad Magazine is like the 15, 16-year-olds, this is the 11, 12-year-olds.
Yeah.
Who are even less mature, they're even dumber, low-hanging fruit jokes. So that's what Psycho Ape is. Yeah.
I think it's the addition of like the fecal jokes. Makes it more cracked.
The chocolate pudding with corn niblets in it.
Yeah.
I don't know if Mad Magazine would have added the corn niblets.
No, I don't think so. That makes it into cracked. And I also appreciated the nods to the ape subgenre.
Yes.
And you've named off there's numerous mentions of Mighty Joe Young, the original and the remake, King Kong, of course. What are some other ones? Were you going out trying to kind of make a nod to eight films?
Yeah, for research, for homework, when we were in pre-production of Psycho Ape, just writing the script, coming up with ideas, we watched John Landis's Schlock, which was the first movie he ever made when he was 21 years old. And that is just like a crappy Bigfoot movie that he made long before Animal House and Blues Brothers and An American Werewolf in London. So we kind of took that as the template of, well, if John Landis can make kind of a crappy guy in a Bigfoot costume movie in 1971, 1972, at the age of 21, well, we're 29, 30, so let's try to make it a little bit better than that.
Yeah.
You can only go up from there.
Right.
So that was kind of the template mixed with Halloween, because instead of Dr. Loomis, we have Dr. Zoomis, who is the zookeeper psychiatrist, hunting the ape. But we also watched King Kong Lives and Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes, just sort of the lesser known, junkier ape movies, the ones that, Going Bananas with Dom DeLuise from the 80s. So that's kind of what we did, was just cycle through some of those and take notes. We had notebooks and we were just writing down ideas and things what can we reference these movies? Can we spoof scenes from these movies? And that's kind of where we went.
Yeah, and there's other spoofs too, I noticed, other than just ape films. The one that's coming to mind right now is the Nightmare on Elm Street homage.
Yeah, the fingers coming out of the bathtub, but it's just a bunch of bananas.
Yes. So there's a lot of that going on as well, and
yeah, we really wanted to do kind of like John Landis's Schlock meets a Mel Brooks kind of movie.
Yeah.
Where there is a bunch of parodies of ape movies, but it's also Inglourious Bastards and even Blazing Saddles. That's already a spoof movie, but we kind of spoofed a spoof movie.
Yeah.
And that's kind of just what the whole vibe is. We're just crazy, throw everything at the wall and see what sticks, because the guidelines that we had set out for ourselves was, let's just make this an hour long, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And in that way, you know, we can just cycle through gags and jokes and scenes, but as long as it keeps moving and it's only an hour, you know, the ratio of good to bad, you know, jokes and gags, it might be better that way.
Yeah.
And I think it worked.
Yeah. So what is your favorite ape movie?
Oh gosh. I guess you can't go wrong with the original King Kong. I mean, it is such a classic.
Mm-hmm.
And I do like the Kong Skull Island that came out a few years ago too.
Yeah.
That one's pretty good. But yeah, classic King Kong.
King Kong, yeah, that is a good movie. I haven't seen that in a while, but that's a good one. So, other than I guess 8 films, what in the your dream, I guess, what other movies and filmmakers have inspired you? I see a trauma inspiration in there, and also with your Texas Ranger shirt here.
Mm-hmm. Definitely trauma. You know, I've been a fan of trauma since I was like 11, 12 years old. Toxic Avenger, Poultrygeist, the Class of Nukem High movies. I mean, Sergeant Kabuki Man. We have the villain from Sergeant Kabuki Man in our Psycho Ape movies.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely trauma. You know, people like Kevin Smith grew up watching movies like Clerks and Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
Yeah.
You know, he's always been very like self-referential.
Yes.
And you know, his movies exist in the little universe where people reference other like moments and things, characters. And they're all tethered together. I like that. Quentin Tarantino is another favorite filmmaker who I just love the way that he'll take, you know, a hodgepodge of movies and sort of do little spins on you know, his own take on certain things and quilt together like a brand new story.
Yes.
But you can watch something like Django Unchained and it's like, okay, so this is a spaghetti western, but also a blaxploitation film, but it's also like a revenge movie. So there's just tons of different genres in one film, top to bottom. I love that he can do that.
Yeah, I agree with you on Quentin Tarantino. I love his pastiche.
Yeah.
He's inspiring. I also, I mean, I agree with everything you said. That I'm kind of the same way. So you mentioned crowdfunding and Indiegogo, and I wanted to ask you a little bit about those experiences. What have you found, you know, works, what doesn't work? Can you talk to us about some of the perks that you've offered in the past too? Yeah,
so I've done about 4 or 5 campaigns now. I jump back and forth between Kickstarter and Indiegogo. I think Kickstarter is the more well-known of the two, and so people just kind of gravitate towards that one because it's like an established brand. But with Indiegogo, let's say that you are asking for like $5,000 or something and you only raise, you know, $1,500. With Indiegogo, you still get to keep that $1,500, although they do take a little bit bigger of a cut at the end. Their fee is a little bit bigger because you didn't reach your goal. But with Kickstarter, it's all or nothing.
Yeah.
So that's where, you know, you have to really be confident that you could raise that $5,000 because if you only raise the $1,500, then forget it, you get nothing. So you have to sort of, that's why I sort of lean more towards Indiegogo now. I just think it's better that way.
Right.
You know, because you can still, you know, make something with $1,500. It might not be your grand vision that you had in mind, but you can still crunch it down to something and still make, because then if you make that really good with the $1,500 and release it to people and sell copies, then they might, you know, follow you through your journey, your filmmaker journey, and give you more money later. You know what I mean? So it's all kind of just a growing thing. Like with part 1 of Psycho Ape, I asked for $1,000, we got 7,000. Part 2, I asked for 10,000, we got 14. So it's just kind of, but that's like a luck of the draw thing. Like we just happened to make something that like appealed to people.
Yeah.
But I think also, you know, on Indiegogo and Kickstarter, it's good to offer even like tiny little affordable perks that, you know, often get overlooked, like $1 thank yous or $10 thank yous, but then also like a thank you credit on IMDb or something. People really like, they want to just go to their IMDb page, even if they aren't a filmmaker or if they aren't a producer or an actor. They get to have an IMDb page and they can look through that and say like, yeah, I'm a part of all these movies. You know, they may not have been on set, they may not have had any creative input, but they're still a part of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So, the dollar thank yous are always good, the $10 things. Then I do physical media like, Blu-rays, DVDs, because there are people who still, want to collect these things and put it on their shelf.
Yeah.
But then I also I offer digital downloads. So you get your options, you get your choices.
Mm-hmm.
But then also like executive producers, associate producers, a main producer. And you can kind of just create your own tier, like how much, these are all worth, like in your opinion, there could be $100, $200, $500. But some people, they want to help bring these movies to life because they want to see them.
Yeah.
And sometimes they just, they'll contribute whatever, anything, just to see these movies happen.
Mm-hmm.
And to get their name in there too.
Yeah. So you've had pretty good luck with I think crowdfunding. It seems, and that's I think when we were talking earlier, because you kind of had a following, I guess, on YouTube with what you do on YouTube.
Yeah, for about 10 years, I did a show called Movies to Watch on a Rainy Afternoon,
Mm-hmm.
where I would kind of break down like cheesy B movies like Mystery Science Theater and riff tracks and stuff, where I would sort of take the best of the worst clips from, I made 100 episodes in 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I would compile like movie reviews where best of the worst clips with jokes and commentary kind of sprinkled on these clips. And over time, I would sometimes get feedback from certain filmmakers who actually made these movies, good and bad.
Yeah.
And then the ones that liked those reviews and they liked being riffed, they would share those on their social media page.
Mm-hmm.
So then my audience would grow a little bit because they'd be like, oh, look, that was a funny take on that guy's movie. I don't approach it with just crapping on the movies because that's rude. It's more a satirical, like, just a ribbing, a roasting. It's all in good fun.
Yeah.
Some people would take it the wrong way and block me on social media or submit something to YouTube and just say, like, take this guy's channel down or take this guy's video down. So it happened. But I got attention from Troma because I did one for Rabbit Grannies. And Troma shared that on Twitter. They really liked that sort of riff on Rabbit Grannies. And that led to working with Troma. I got to do like my own feature-length movie riffing show called Tremasterpiece Theater, which really was like Mystery Science Theater. We built our own puppets called Corny and Really, and I did 2 episodes of that. We did Lloyd Kaufman's movie, The Battle of Love's Return, which nobody's ever heard of because it's his first movie he ever made, and he was like 25 in 1971, which is like 15 years before Toxic Avenger.
Yeah.
But it's like a really crappy sort of like black and white Woody Allen style comedy, but it's not funny at all. And so we riffed that thing from top to bottom. You see our little silhouettes at the bottom, me and my talking, box of popcorn and film reel. And people seem to really like that too. So then for the second episode, Lloyd said that we could do Poultrygeist. And that was the first time I ever did a Kickstarter. Again, I asked for $500. And just to like rent out a movie theater and actually film there, and have decent audio and lighting, because the first episode we was just kind of like we just did it ourselves, for a couple $100. And so I thought like, okay, maybe for $500 we could have a little bit better production. But that one took right off, and I made $7,500 on that one.
Wow.
So Tremasterpiece Theater episode 2 Poultrygeist got $7,500 and Psycho Ape brought in $7,000. I did those very close to each other. So like 2019, 2020, I had sort of 2 projects kind of going at the same time. One was Tremasterpiece Theater, like a Troma riffing show, and then Psycho Ape. But so being associated with Troma helped. Having my own YouTube channel and doing like 100 episodes of a movie riffing show, that helped. And then just, the popularity of Psycho Ape over the last couple of years, that has helped too. So it's just all kinds of different stuff. Don't just stick to one thing, even if it's like your favorite thing, try other things too. Because I also have another project called Magnum Opus, which is like Jackass. I digitized these old VHS tapes from like 15, 20 years ago. And I took out all the bits of like, when we would jump off the roof or staple each other or something disgusting. And I laid these clips out in chronological order.
Yeah.
So it's like an hour-long compilation of teenagers, like, you know, behaving badly, but it's like 15, 20 years worth of footage. And it's me and my middle school and high school friends sort of growing older over the span of an hour. But the footage quality gets better too. So it's like VHS, high 8, mini DV, 1080p, then 4K. But it's the same core group of people from the age of 12 to 28. And we're all just growing up, but like, you know, doing pranks on the street or, you know, just riding wagons downstairs and stuff. So it's all just stupid crap. But so like that's a Jackass style project that I made. And earlier this year, because I made that, I got invited out to Los Angeles and I got to be on a Jackass cast members podcast. Zach Ass, who was in Jackass Forever.
Okay.
So, you know, it's good to just keep doing different kinds of variety of things because other things will happen.
So are you, do you still do the movies for a rainy afternoon?
I actually haven't done one of those in a while just because, you know, I did like 130 episodes over 10 years. So I started just focusing on features, you know, because you just get burned out, you know.
So any more trauma piece theater?
No, not that either. Because I did the 2, but then like the pandemic happened.
Yeah.
And Lloyd wasn't like licensing out movies or anything like that anymore. I think he just wanted to keep it sort of like close and protected. And also like, I don't know, I was actually like making legitimate money, you know, off of that stuff.
Yeah.
So I think it became something where it was like, he didn't think that I would, you know, like kind of maybe a little underestimated, like, you know, me going to conventions and selling stuff. And I just, you know, he's probably seen thousands of filmmakers over his career and never saw them like grow or go anywhere. So I think when he saw somebody actually doing something and he was just like, oh crap, you know, I should probably wrangle this back in. But so I didn't get to do another one. But there's like 130 rainy afternoons, 2 Tremasterpiece, 2 Psycho Apes at this point, magnum opus. But like that's my chunk of filmography right there. It's over 10 years of work.
Yeah, you've been at it for a long time. So Psycho Ape 2, we mentioned this earlier, is going to be the big Michigan premiere in Howell.
Yep.
On August 22nd,
right?
So if you're local and you want to check out...
It's a Thursday night, but, you know...
Thursday night is a good movie watching night. So, if you want to see some crazy stuff with a very wacky sense of humor, I would suggest it. And you were telling me earlier too that Psycho Ape's more of a courtroom drama, where Psycho Ape 1 was kind of like a slasher.
Yeah, we intentionally set out to make something totally different because I just didn't want to repeat myself. I didn't want to make the same movie twice. So the first one is kind of a parody of slasher movies like Halloween, but like also done with sort of a trauma attitude. Just super low budget, shot on mini DV tape. But because we had $14,000 for the budget of part 2, we shot it in 4K in California. So it looks better, you know, it looks like a real movie kind of, but it doesn't behave like one at all. It's even crazier and wackier and more meta and more self-aware. But we rented out a courtroom set in California, and that's where a big chunk of our budget went because we spent a whole day there filming all these scenes of witnesses on the witness stand, and you know they would bring evidence up, and the Psycho Ape is on trial for the crimes he committed in the first movie. So it's like they use the first movie as evidence against him, which means Psycho Ape the movie exists in the Psycho Ape world.
Okay.
So it's kind of like Gremlins 2 or Spaceballs, because there's even a scene towards the end of Psycho Ape 2 where the characters are sitting down at a table and they have like VHS tapes, trading cards, the DVDs, and are telling the viewer all about this stuff that they can actually buy. And this is legitimate merchandise that people can buy if they want to. So it's very Spaceballs, very like just shilling our wares. But so the first one has nothing like that. But then this one, it's just so, you know, it's a response kind of to like what happened to like the, you know, the fandom of part 1. People, you know, like the movie. And like I know a couple people who have like the 2 different special edition VHS tapes that have been made, and the trading cards and the T-shirts, because they're super fans. You know, they love the first movie. So it's kind of acknowledging, but also satirizing ourselves of just like, yeah, this merchandise exists. You can buy it, thanks for the support.
Yeah.
But so it's very it knows it's a movie, but it doesn't really behave like one because there's crazy non sequiturs of, all kinds of stuff that just don't make any real sense to the plot. People breaking the fourth wall all the time. You can hear Greg and I laughing in the background in lots of takes.
Mm-hmm.
We just kept it in there. Or, the judge is beating a gavel, and the gavel breaks every single time because that prop was a piece of crap that I ordered off Amazon. But the takes used in the movie are the first takes when it broke because it's like, well, at that point, like, what are we going to do,
Right, yeah. So, any characters who were in Psycho Ape 1 following over into Psycho Ape 2?
Oh, yeah, a bunch. You get the three main cast, the ape,
Okay.
played by a different person this time, though. But you have Bill Whedon, as Dr. Zoomis,
Mm-hmm.
Kansas Bowling as Nancy Banana.
Mm-hmm.
But mainly we just follow them as they go off on their California adventures.
Okay.
But there are cameos and stuff from people from the first movie, survivors or, just popular characters popping up here and there. But, I mean, for the most part, it is like a new, using the word plot or story is very, like, thin.
Yeah.
But it is just kind of an excuse to just go crazy in California and film a bunch of wild, wacky stuff. And so, the first one, again, behaves more like a slasher movie or a parody of slasher movies.
Mm-hmm.
But this one is like, it's more adjacent to Gremlins 2, where it's just halfway through, it just goes nuts. It goes off the rails. And, we thought that that's what people would want, like just, you want to see these characters just do a bunch of wacky, wild stuff and break the fourth wall and, reference the fact that they're in a movie. Well, that's this, it's very, Deadpool-ish. So it's kind of like almost kismet that like Deadpool and Wolverine is like a hit right now.
Yeah.
Because we do all that too, but on a $14,000 scale,
Yeah. So you did that in California. That's really very cool. Where was Psycho Ape 1 shot? I know you were in New York for some of it.
Mm-hmm.
Or did you shoot the rest of it like around
Michigan.
here in Michigan?
Yeah. It's only the finale of the first movie that was shot in New York, and the rest of it's all just Michigan.
Yeah.
So what we would do for about a year and a half was I would blast out on Facebook and stuff. Hey, we're filming Psycho Ape, and we're doing Psycho Ape Thursdays. That's kind of how the production of the first movie went, where every Thursday we would get together and film like a kill scene or a scene with the ape doing something or whatever. So once we, for months, did Psycho Ape Thursdays of having just strangers from the internet show up at my apartment and filming scenes with them, sort of cobbled together like half a movie. And then I was like, okay, now let's go to New York and film the other half with like Bill and Kansas, because that's where they were.
Mm-hmm.
And so we just stuck it all together. But by weaving like this, really weak weaving sort of storyline of, Kansas's friends are killed by the ape in the beginning, but then she like disappears for a very long time because there's a series of murder scenes.
Yeah.
Then she pops up later and reunited with the ape, and in the background, there's a zookeeper watching everybody. But I mean, all the random kill scenes and stuff like that was shot first over a period of many, many months of just people coming over and killing them with bananas. And then it was all just sort of crafted like in post-production, through Greg's editing. And, that was sort of, I think, how we were able to make it seem like there was kind of a story or kind of a plot. But with Psycho Ape 2, we shot the whole thing in 9 days. So that's really reflective of this is what chaos shooting a movie in 9 days looks like. It's just craziness. Where we did have a script, we did have an outline. But once you start shooting with everybody and you get a big cast together and you find that the improv stuff and the off the cuff stuff is just way more fun, then you just start shooting more of that.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So, did you find your cast different? Let me rephrase this. How did you find your cast for Psycho Ape 2? Because it's let me get this straight. For Psycho Ape 1, you kind of found your cast through your Instagram followers and social media followers. How did you find actors for 2?
A lot of those people were friends with Greg out in Los Angeles.
Okay.
And like the ape is a friend of Greg's and Kansas. And because he's been making movies out there too for the past couple of years, and he reached out to all of them and asked them like, hey, would you guys want to work on Psycho Ape too? So we kind of got lucky that there was enough people out there in California, in living around near him, that would come over to his place, and we could just go shoot some stuff sort of like in the alley behind his apartment or something. There were a couple people who he did cast through like Craigslist and things like that. And some people who were fans of the first movie, we did hire them and fly them in from, like Illinois or like Boston and stuff like that. So it was less you're invited to participate sort of feel, but it still was that, but it was more like we kind of knew everybody who we were going to be working with, as opposed to the first one where it was just like, I have no idea who's flying in from Las Vegas today, or I have no idea who's driving up from Tennessee today, but let's have an idea ready so when they get here, we can just start shooting.
Yeah.
It was a really different way to make two different movies.
Yeah, it sounds very different. All right, Mr. Binek, what's next?
Well, I have to sort of take this movie out on tour and do a bunch of screenings and go to conventions and sell a bunch of copies, because people I think forget sometimes that that's part of the process too, is now it's like a year of promotion, because we spent a year shooting it. Well, we spent 9 days shooting it, and then Greg has spent the last year crafting it, so now that's finished, I have to go out and sell it. And we've pre-sold a couple hundred through the Indiegogo, but that's not why we made the movie. Now we got to get it into theaters, and we got to get it on the streaming services, and I have to go to conventions and sell it. So now, it's that part, it's the promotion. But once that's done, there's a Frankenstein movie that I want to do by myself, that has nothing to do with like Psycho Ape or anything like that. And it's going to be called The Cult of Frankenstein, about, thank you. It's going to be sort of like Manson followers, like, like the Manson family, kind of, but instead of being like crazy drug-taking hippies, they're going to be obsessed with like the Frankenstein monster and just like squatting on like a farm or something and stealing body parts to assemble their own monster, because they're all just super obsessed with like all the different variations and books and movies about the monster.
Yeah.
And there is a leader who's going to be like a Charles Manson type character, but he wants to be like a mad scientist too, and he's been brainwashing his cult to do this for him. But I want to do it where it's like Psycho or Death Proof, where we do a switch like halfway through the movie. So you think like maybe the first half hour, you're just going to be following around like, like Wicker Man or like Midsummer type cults, doing these things with body parts and assembling their own creation. But then when the thing comes to life, it takes out like half the cult and then goes off on its own adventure. So then the second half of the movie, we're going to cut to like a mad scientist, like a real one, who has like been experimenting and creating like an army of Frankenstein monsters.
Whoa. And
he is like the grand descendant of the original Dr. Frankenstein.
Okay.
But this guy is more like a bumbling lunatic. He's just, his creations range from like pretty good to just outright terrible. So what I did was I got every Frankenstein mask and costume that's like available on Amazon or Spirit Halloween to create an army of them, because what he's been doing is creating them merely to pit them against each other and charge money like UFC monster fights. And I want to have scenes where they're like either outside or like in a ring tearing each other's arms off, like like Monty Python and the Holy Grail with the Black Knight, just like clearly bad special effects, and they're fighting each other. Very influenced from like Django Unchained, where it's like the Mandingo fights where they're fighting for people's entertainment. But he's been charging money so people can watch his creations fight each other. And so the monster from the beginning of the movie finds its way back home to like, Castle Frankenstein, sees kind of what's been going on and knows that like, oh, this this guy's been abusing his power, he's abusing his knowledge, and, creating these monsters for profit, and just tears the whole castle down in a classic, like, Universal Monster Hammer film, ending, where everything the castle implodes, gets destroyed by a flood or what have you.
Yeah.
And then it just ends with, like, a question mark, the way that all those movies always end. But so it's two halves,
Yeah.
and they're both different from each other. Like, it's like 70s, cult movie, and then, Hammer films, or Universal monster movie, second half, but with also like a Godzilla movie where it's just monsters beating the crap out of each other. People in rubber costumes, just fighting. So it's two different movies, but I'm going to fuse them together into, like, that's the structure of it.
Yeah. And I can hear the like Quentin Tarantino pastiche kind of inspiration.
It's very much that.
And is the Cult of Frankenstein gonna have like a similar sense of humor and be like meta? Like,
it's not gonna be
Psycho Ape
as
ones?
meta. Like, the characters aren't gonna be aware they're in a movie or anything. I'm not gonna try to sell you anything, but the special effects will be just as crappy, and the sense of humor will be just as stupid. So
Right.
that's not gonna go anywhere. But what I don't want to do is, like, every movie out do the same kind of thing where it's all like fourth wall breaking or super meta.
Yeah.
I kind of want to contain that to just Psycho Ape stuff. But this will be a comedy. The Frankenstein masks are crappy. I bought them off of Amazon. One came in from, like, Japan, and it's literally just like a nylon mask that, like, it's all crumpled up, but then when you put it on, it stretches out, like nylon.
Yeah.
But it looks like someone just took a Sharpie and painted a Frankenstein mask or a Frankenstein face on there.
Yeah.
It looks horrible. So it's like, I want to pit that one against one that, like, looks like Boris Karloff.
Yeah.
Just because it's just gonna look so stupid on screen. I'm like,
Yeah.
hey, that's a pretty good looking Frankenstein mask. Like, oh yeah, that came from Trick or Treat Studios. Compared to this one that was like $5 from Japan, and it's just like a nylon sock.
I'll be excited to see that one. That sounds pretty funny.
Yeah, that's kind of, I've been trying to make that for a couple of years, but I just keep, like, writing more, or I buy more props, because my living room closet right now has like a dozen different Frankenstein costumes and Frankenstein masks.
Yeah.
But there's also, like, lunch boxes and action figures and puzzles, because I want the characters in the beginning of the movie to have all this stuff.
Yeah.
I want to really sell the fact that they're obsessed. So it's like, well, how do I do that? I'll just buy Frankenstein stuff and just donate it to the production. You know what I mean? Have them all doing stuff and playing with these puzzles and action figures, and that's how they're gonna, like, bide their time. Staying on this farm, playing with these things.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right. That'll sell it, that'll be my Frankenstein stuff, but it's for the movie,
Yeah, I was gonna say it's probably fun too to just for yourself to collect all the.
I mean, it is, but it's for the movie. It really is. My whole living room closet is that's the Cult of Frankenstein closet.
Yeah.
And I'm sure my roommate can't wait for me to shoot that movie to get rid of all that crap.
Yeah, that's funny. I can imagine, like, someone accidentally stumbling upon your Frankenstein closet and just being like, why does this guy have 50 Frankenstein
Like, this guy
costumes?
must really like Frankenstein.
Yeah.
And I do, but it is for the movie. It's for the lunch boxes. I would never just buy a Frankenstein lunchbox. It's for the movie.
Yeah.
Multiple action figures. There's even, like, little candles that I got off eBay. It's just like a Frankenstein head and thing plush. So I just, because when I get to the whatever location that we're going to be filming, I want to just deck the place out with everything that I could possibly find on Amazon and eBay. And, how else am I going to do that unless I find this stuff and set decorate? So I kind of, like, had to do that,
Yeah, of course. So for the time being, though, you are promoting Psycho Ape 2.
Mm-hmm.
You were just at Gross Fest in Pittsburgh, right? What's the next con, or do you have one lined up?
Yes, there is going to be a premiere at the Skyline Drive-In in, I think the city is Shelbyville, Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
There's an event going on hosted by Severin Films. So I have a buddy who works for Severin who's a big fan of the Psycho Ape series.
Cool.
and he is doing a lineup of movies at this drive-in Saturday, September 22nd, I think. And it's like a Severin movie and an indie movie, and a Severin movie and an indie movie. And we're going to be one of those indie movies.
That sounds fun.
Yeah. So that'd be really cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be an all-night, the Severin sleepover, at the Skyline Drive-In. So that's been booked for that. And then I plan on going to Cinema Wasteland in October.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be fun. That's one of my favorite conventions of all time.
That's a good one.
Yeah. So I don't know if they'll play Psycho Ape 2 because I'm getting close to the deadline of submitting it. Like, this is the only copy that exists right now, and they don't take Blu-rays. So I have to get a DVD made and mail that to Cinema Wasteland for them to play it, but I might miss the deadline. So I'll have copies there, but I can't guarantee it'll play. Maybe in April.
Mm-hmm.
But so it's the Skyline and Cinema Wasteland. Those are the two right now.
Mm-hmm. And Cinema Wasteland is in Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
In,
Strongsville,
that's right.
Yeah, first weekend of October.
Yeah, and then of course we've mentioned this a couple times. If you're local, check it out in Howell, and you can check out. Can you still pre-order copies of it?
Yeah. I mean, it's available. I've got a link on eBay right now as well. But yeah, the Indiegogo too. And like I said, I literally placed an order, a bulk order for Blu-rays today.
Mm-hmm.
So once that gets to me, I can just start shipping these out to everybody who pre-order a copy. And it's quite a few, so it'll be a little bit slow at first, but people are going to start receiving their physical media soon.
Cool, and physical media is just the way to go, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Just off the record there. And where can we see Psycho Ape 1 if we want to see that before we see 2?
I have DVDs also available on my eBay page, but people could also stream it on Amazon Prime if they want to. It's there for $1.99. We've tried to get it onto Tubi, but because it's shot on tape and the audio is inconsistent, we got dinged for that for quality control. So I don't know if Tubi is going to take Psycho Ape 1 ever. They might take 2, but I don't know. We have no idea yet because we haven't tried to submit it yet.
And also, we were talking before the show, and you had mentioned that a viewer who saw it at Gross Fest, Psycho Ape 2, had never seen Psycho Ape 1, and he still enjoyed 2.
Yeah.
So I guess you don't really have to see 1 to enjoy 2.
No, I mean, Greg and I kind of made a joke out of that.
Yeah.
It's even on the back of the Blu-ray, we promise you don't have to have seen the first one.
Yeah.
But yeah, he said that he was just passing by the hotel where Gross Fest was happening, and him being a horror fan but having never attended a convention before, decided to check it out. And so he said that he went downstairs and walked around the vendor room and just looked at what everybody had, but then he went to the screening room and just popped into Psycho Ape 2, sat there, watched it, and then found me in the hallway after the screening.
Yeah.
And he said that he loved it. He had never seen anything like it. And I mean, he did have some notes, but it's that's fair, everybody's entitled to what they like and don't like in a movie.
Yeah.
I don't, I can take constructive criticism, it's fine. But he said that he had never seen the first one or ever even been to a horror convention before.
Wow.
But he liked it, he really liked it. And he said that maybe next year he'll get some people to come to another Gross Fest, the next year's Gross Fest with him, So that was cool. That was nice to hear.
That's some great feedback. That's
because not only was it the official public premiere, that was the first time the movie had played to anybody, other than myself, Greg, or my roommate and my buddy. That was 14 new people that saw it, and then that one guy in particular, took it upon himself to find me after the screening in the hallway to tell me how much he liked it, despite not having even seen the first one.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a pretty big win.
Yeah, that is. Well, Addison, I'd like to thank you again for joining me.
Yeah, of course.
Down in my little cozy level of hell here. And just talking all about apes and weird movies. And,
yeah, for sure.
And your process.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. And we'll see you next time, guys.